Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the 2023 Boards and Senate election debate. My name is Margaret Ann, and I am Deputy Chair of Council for the Students' Union. Next to me, I have Kira Wainwright, and she is a returning officer for the Students' Union as well, and she will be our timekeeper for today. I will be moderating. And welcome. Before we begin, I will go over our rules and regulations briefly. When candidates address each other, please refer to each other by candidate last name or candidate full name. As well, I will be giving a 3-minute introductory address to everyone, and you're able to describe what program you're in, where you're from, what position you're running for, and during that, you will have a 15-second warning before the end of your allotted speaking time, which Kira will give by raising your hand. And then after that, we will go into our question period, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and the same rule will apply with the 15-second time warning from Kira. And when that time has elapsed, I will cut you off if you are still speaking. Finally, we have time for a audience Q&A at the end, where some of our audience members from the back, who are very thankful for being here, thank you everyone for coming, that anyone else can have a chance to ask you guys a question. It can be a direct question to you, or it can be a question to the whole panel. After that, candidates will also be granted the first right of reply if requested, which candidate may defend or rebut the previous statement made. So other than that, all questions and answers must adhere to the general decorum and rules outlined above, and if any candidate fails to adhere to these regulations, I will ask you to exit the debate. Other than that, we can kick things off here now with some introductory... Sorry about that. I also just wanted to mention that our candidate for Education, Senator Catherine Waterbury, is not here tonight because she is on her teaching practicum. But if you want to see the answers to the responses to her questions asked today, they will be available on the U's Instagram, I believe. Yes. All right. Okay. Let's get started with some introductory addresses. So, candidate Popadanak, thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, so hi, my name's Kate Popadanak. I'm from a little town like 20 minutes away from Niagara Falls in Ontario. Actually, probably not much bigger than Antigonish, just in Ontario. I'm in my third year at StFX. I'm doing my honors in political science. I'm also doing a pair in earth science and in PGov. I'm a transfer student actually to StFX, so this is my first year at X. I was at Laurier last year and actually at Western in my first year. But StFX has definitely felt the most like home out of all the campuses that I've been on, which is definitely kind of a record, I guess, for most people that I talk to. I'm running to be one of your board of directors representatives for next year. I absolutely love the community that StFX creates, and I just really want to be as big of a part of that community as I can be.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Ryan, you may go ahead.
Hello, my name is Angus Ryan. My pronouns are he, him. I've lived in Antigonish for most of my life, and I value my time being here. I'm majoring in political science. I'm in my second year currently, and I would like to see a future maybe in political advising. I'm currently running for the board of directors, and I hope to use my knowledge that I've attained from being in Antigonish for this long and my background in politics to help better the union in aspects that I see.
Thank you. Candidate DeLebec.
So I'm Arjo DeLebec. My pronouns are they, them. I am a third-year religious studies student here at StFX. I'm also minoring in studio art. I'm also running for the board of directors. I hope to bring a queer and neurodiverse voice to discussions surrounding our student union and do my best to represent the queer and neurodiverse communities.
Great, thank you. Candidate Cruchet.
Hey everyone, I'm Jacob. I am a student and majoring in public policy and governance, and it's my first year. I'm from a small town in Ontario, also about the size of Nish, and I am running for the Senator of Arts. So basically, I want to be representing art students and anyone who's taking arts courses' voice, and I think the best way to get involved and to make a change is to be with the youth.
Thank you. And Candidate Chang.
Hi everyone. I was here just 2 months ago, so I'm just glad to be back. For those who don't know me, my name is Francisco Chang. I'm a second-year international student that is in the economics program. I'm this year's international student representative. So for the last 8 months, I've been working along with the U, the International Student Society, and also the Office of Internationalization, working always towards the best interests of international students. This year, I'm applying to the Board of Governors, so I'm expecting to give this jump. Now, this year, I've been representing almost 400 students. Next year, hopefully, if I get this, it will be around 3,000, 4,000. So it's a big jump in my, I can call it career, I don't know. It's just, I'm just happy to be here. This last year, it's been a year of growth at the U, and I'm hoping that I could keep it going. Some, like, if you want more personal information, I grew up playing sports. I like soccer a lot. I like boxing, and I'm also a big fan of coconut. So anything that comes with coconuts, I really love it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thank you, Candidate Chang. All right, and that concludes our introductory address section. So we will move on to our question period. So we will begin first with some questions for all of our candidates. Okay, so let's begin with first question. What sets you apart from other candidates in this election? Candidate Popadanek.
You're getting closer every time, so it's awesome.
You can begin.
Okay, I first like to acknowledge that I think all of my fellow candidates are more than qualified for the position, and our personalities all seem pretty well suited for it. As I kind of already mentioned, I love the community at StFX. I have made amazing friends here that I think I will have for the rest of my life, and it's a very intimate learning experience, I think, too, with the classes mostly being so small. And yeah, with the community that StFX creates, I just really want to be able to be a big part of it and be a voice for students, and to be a part of. I would love to be part of the U next year, and just be an advocate for students as a whole.
Thank you, Candidate Popadanek. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
I believe that something that I can bring to the table is a lot of people would say I'm very open to different perspectives. I'm very good at listening to people's issues, and from that vein, I would try to advocate for said issues. I know when to fight for something that I believe in, and fight for things that the student body believes in. And I have no doubt that this venue will allow me and my the other great candidates running today to voice concerns and help the student body as a whole.
Thank you, Candidate Ryan. Candidate Dillybeck, you can go ahead.
So as I said in my platform statement, I hope to bring a queer and neurodiverse voice to the table. I do identify as non-binary, and I do also, I am a student with the Trumbull Center. On top of that, though, I feel that I'm very involved in the community. I've worked with the student union through the convenience store and also the marketing team for, I think it's been a total of a couple of years now almost. And I've also worked in other parts at StFX, most notably with Flourish at X and the Bloomfield Hub. I feel that I've established pretty good connections with many different people in our community on campus. So I think that I can get a good feel for what the student body might want or need, and I feel that I have, like, with those connections, made lots of good friends, and I hope that I'm approachable to people at least. My friends would describe me as very empathetic and passionate as well, so I'll definitely fight for what I believe we deserve and what I believe is right, and I just hope that I can represent people to the best of my ability, as I'm sure all the other candidates would be able to do as well.
Okay. Thank you, candidate Delebeck. Candidate Krushek, go ahead.
I just want to start by saying I think that all the candidates here are absolutely suitable for their roles, and Teller already are amazing people. I think there's two things that I bring to the table, and the first is that is my commitment. I think I'm a very, very committed person, and for me, helping people is the best thing about life, and it's the best thing that you can strive for. So that's absolutely something I'm not going to stop trying to do, and part of that is, through this position as the arts senator. The other thing that I think I bring to the table is past experience. From a previous school board, I was the chair of the equity committee, and had a lot of experience working in committees and working with different councils, and I think that side of things is definitely a strength.
Okay. Thank you, candidate Krushek. And candidate Chang, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I would say my background. I'm not. I might be wrong, but I think I'm the only international student in the table. Not in the room, but at least on the table. So growing up in a different country obviously gives me a different perspective. What I'm going to say now, it's not with the intention of making you feel like pity for international students, but most of us come from countries that are obviously less economically developed compared to Canada. We come from places that maybe are not as safe as here. So growing up in that environment obviously makes you appreciate more the fact of being here and having the opportunity to study or to have a post-secondary title. So yeah, just like everyone here, I'm human, I make mistakes, but I'll make sure that if I do, I ask for input and go through everything again so I can do a better job. So in that sense, I'm pretty positive, so yeah, thanks.
Thank you, candidate Chang. We will move on to our second question. This one, very general question. What is your platform for this election? And candidate Chang, if you wouldn't mind, we'll start with you, just so we don't have to put all the pressure on this end of the table.
It's fine. Well, if I have to pick three, I would say consultation, financial, and mental health. Consultation, we can use COVID as an example. As much as we want it to be over, it's not over yet. And from my experience working at the library, I know that some people still like mask mandates, some don't. But what's important here is to do a consultation of with the people that actually is in the classrooms and not the directive that doesn't come to class every single day. So yeah, consultation is pretty important. Financial, well, as we all know, the biggest challenge for all of us is the financials, and I think that programs like Kevin Corners, the breakfast program, and also the aid that we receive after Fiona are great examples of programs that help students, and we should definitely keep running. And lastly, mental health, again, the peer support program, the clinic we have down on the second floor, right? Yeah. Are examples of services currently being offered, but that can be improved because there's always room for improvement. So yeah, working on improving communication and services to support mental health among students is extremely important and something that I would work towards too.
Great, thank you, candidate Chang. Candidate Krisha, you can go ahead.
I would also say that I think there are three things that I value and are part of my platform. The first, and probably one of the most important things to me, is just representing the student voice. I think that ultimately all of the change comes from the students here, and I think that that's so important. So I want to do my best job to represent the interests of the art students and students all over campus. And that means, direct lines of communication, asking questions like, what kind of classes do we want to see? What kind of experiences are you having at X? These sorts of things. Another thing that is very important to me is innovation, big ideas. I don't think anything's off the table with me. Big issues require big solutions, and small issues require small solutions, but there's solutions nonetheless, and I'm always willing to think about new ones and leave nothing off the table. The third thing I would say is creating an equitable environment. Nothing matters if we don't have equity for everybody and every student here. Beyond, equal opportunities for them, but just making sure that students are incredibly comfortable to speak up and comfortable to approach which issues that they have. And so those are probably the three big things that are part of my platform and what I want to bring to the table.
Thank you, Candidate Kershak. Candidate Dillyback, you can go ahead.
Yeah, kind of as I've said before, a big thing for me is diversity and inclusion. Growing up as a queer and neurodiverse person, I definitely recognize that I was lucky enough to avoid a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of the issues and harms and stuff that might face the queer community and the neurodiverse community as well. But I also am able to understand those issues, and I want to provide a voice to those who may not have a voice at our table at the moment. I feel that I'm very approachable. I'm always around the DEC, hanging out and chatting with anybody who might be in there, and so my kind of biggest thing is to bring those voices and those concerns to the table and to the discussions that are involving our student union. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Dillyback. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
Concerning my platform, I when wanting to take this position, a big issue I've seen a lot and want to rectify is the issue of inclusivity. Obviously, I've recognized in my life that I've been afforded a lot of privileges that a lot of students don't have, and I think it's really important that I use my position to be a voice for students who have dealt with a lot of issues on campus. Such things that I would like to see maybe happen is I'd like to review some programs that are currently being run by the U. Maybe like the health and dental plan could be a little bit better for international students, or maybe just some general governance review and trying to allot programs that are more inclusive for minority students or queer students. I think that I want to help people who have been less fortunate than me in aspects of student life, and I'm here to listen and I'm here to voice their concerns.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Ryan. And Candidate Papadinek, you can go ahead.
A lot of the platform points that I kind of had, I share with the other candidates. I think I mainly want to advocate for accountability, diversity, and equity within the U. I really want to make sure that the programs and actions of the U accurately represent the wishes and concerns of the student body. And I know that Board of Directors works closely with Senate and the execs to kind of make that happen. So if I'm afforded this position next year, I definitely want to make sure that the programs coming out of the U are an accurate representation, and like a lot of my fellow candidates said, are inclusive and equitable. Personally, two of the points that I really want to advocate for are environmental sustainability and mental health support across campus. I know that we've made like pretty good strides in the last few years in those areas, but I definitely think that there's room for improvement. So kind of on a more personal level, those are two aspects that I'd really like to advocate for and talk about in the coming year.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your answers. We will move on to the next question. The StFX gym is currently under... Oh. I feel like we just talked a lot about that, so I'm going to skip it. The StFX gym is currently under major renovation. What would you say should be the next to positively develop and modernize our campus? Candidate Papadenak, you can go first.
I think, and I've kind of been I've heard students talk about this throughout the year as well. I think that the next spot on campus that could maybe use a little bit of work would be the library. I know that there's like a lot of nooks in the library that are more like comfortable, like couches and chairs and stuff. Like I never really see students use it because there's like you can't really put your laptop on anything, so it's harder to work there. And there aren't really a lot of like accessible outlets in the library. So I think that with how modern like our students are and the rest of the campus is becoming, there should definitely be like more room for like tables, like surface study spaces with a lot of access to outlets. And I've seen like on other campuses like there's like charging stations within the library, so if students forget like charging cables or anything, there's like boxes that you can put your devices in and like lock that slot, and then you can sit there and watch it charge or like come back later. You just like type a code in and it'll like keep your thing locked while you're gone. So I think that could be something positive to add to the library in the next few years. But yeah, I definitely think that with how often the library is used as like the main study space on campus, it should definitely be the next thing looked at to modernize a bit.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Papadenak. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
When posed this question, I first wanted to look at facilities that students are required to use. And as students, one of the most important places is learning facilities, like places for classes. So I wanted to focus on the building Bruce Brown for as a place for students to take classes. I feel like it's not very accessible to students who may have disabilities. I feel when compared to such buildings like Schwartz or Mulrooney, the classrooms seem very lackluster and cramped. It's not a very inviting learning environment compared to a lot of our facilities. I feel mayhaps the air quality could be a little bit better. Just general things to make the learning experience on campus better, especially in that building where there are a lot of students regularly going in and out.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Ryan. Candidate Delevak, you can go ahead.
Yeah, the other candidates definitely made some very good points. One thing that came to my mind also was that on the topic of plugs and stuff for charging devices such as laptops and such, I remembered that I have a class in shorts and I always need to make sure that my devices are fully charged before I go, because there are no plugs in those rooms unless you're going to be sitting in the window or behind the prof. So that would definitely be something that I would think about. But in terms of a specific building, one that I would love to see renovated would be Immaculata Hall. There is, to my knowledge, 2 entrances where a person with a disability or can enter from. There's one that's behind from the back of the building and into the art department, and I feel that I've been throughout the entire building and I have not seen any elevators unless I completely missed it. So I feel like that definitely could be renovated to be more accessible for our students. It also is quite an old building, and if you've ever had a class in there, it is incredibly difficult to concentrate with all of the creaking floors and hearing every single thing that's happening on the floors above you, especially if you're in the basement in the art department, because then you also have the pipes right above your heads. So definitely I feel something could be modernized for our students. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, candidate Liebeck. Candidate Cruchet, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying I'm so glad that the X Gym is getting renovation. It's an awesome spot, and I'm there 5 days a week. I think that fitness is so important for not only our bodies but on mental health as well. So I'm super glad that's getting renovated. You guys all have, I think, great ideas for next steps, and I think that one place that I would like to see, or I guess two places, would be actually the MK and CAM residences. I think that they're in due for renovation, and I think that compared to the other residences that students are living in, they're a little bit less nice, especially in the hallways and things like that. So I'd love to see those places get a little revamped.
Thank you, candidate Cruchet. And candidate Chang, you can go ahead.
Might be biased in this one because I'm an econ major, so I would love to have our own building so we can have our work, like a place to work on. But like jokes aside, I agree with the library. It's a place where I spend most of my time. I also work there, so I see how every time I have a shift, there's at least 500 to 1,000 people that go in those doors every single day. So it's for sure one building that a lot of students use. But I think also like financial health is important. So I'm not sure how the university is currently on its financials. So like to take like a major renovation right now. But on an ideal world where there's no debt, then I would definitely do some changes in the library.
Great. All right. And that concludes our third question. I would like to move on to a question for our Board of Governors candidate, and then maybe we can come back around and ask some final questions to all of our candidates at the end, if that's okay. So I'm going to direct this question to our Board of Governors candidate, Francisco Chang. So, tuition rates have been rising steadily each year at StFX, and the high cost of living is affecting the average Canadian. What ideas do you have to support students who are struggling financially?
Actually, I was excited when I read this question because this summer I got a job opportunity to work in the economics department with a professor. We're trying to get information on like the amount of students we've had in the past 20 years and how tuition rates have increased. So we can try, without getting too much technical, to see how sensitive different types of students are to changes in prices. Let's say non-Nova Scotian, Nova Scotians, and internationals. So with this, we're trying to build a paper that try to build strategies in order to have a better retention of our students and also attract more. So next year, if I get this position, hopefully I can have some evidence by then, and then I can present in a board meeting and be like, hey, there's the evidence, and then
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you, candidate Chang. Our next question will be directed to our senator candidate, candidate Cruchet. So here we go. In what ways is the university doing well in relation to mental health support? What do you think they need to improve?
I think what we are doing well is that we are offering a lot of services for mental health. Obviously, what comes to mind is the Health and Counseling Center. I think that's a super useful and amazing place, but it obviously has some problems. Just booking appointments, sometimes they're very booked up. Often personnel working, like all over Canada, we're just lacking numbers, and it is very difficult to find appointments on time, especially when you desperately need them. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that we can improve. improving the amount of people working there, and trying to open up more appointments for students.
Thank you, candidate Khrushchev. Our next question will be directed to our board of directors candidates. And this will be like one question that the three of you will answer one by one. So for our first question, Hurricane Fiona severely damaged Antigonish. StFX closed the school for several days. The school ended up being reopened before some students even had power or could take a shower. What do you think the Students' Union did well in the handling of Hurricane Fiona, and what do you think should be done if there is a next time? Candidate Papadenak, you can go first.
So coming from Ontario, I have never lived through or seen the devastation of a storm of this magnitude. I was definitely in denial that it was going to be as bad as it was, I think, like just because I have never seen anything like it. But like I remember going for a walk like the day after the hurricane and like seeing a lot of the aftermath. Like I live off campus, so seeing the aftermath of like some houses near me, even some cars, like the power lines, like it was absolutely devastating. And I definitely think that the town and the school pulled together a lot to create resources for students and for just residents living in the town. One of the things that I thought was really good that StFX did was opening up meal hall to everyone. So I remember there's a day or two where you could get like free tickets and like students and staff could go, like not just first years or whether or not you had swipes, which I thought was a really good thing that we did. I also remember that the U came out with like emergency grant programs, which was awesome. I think that was another really good step that the school took to address the harmful effects of the hurricane. Some things that I think we could do better, maybe hopefully, knock on wood, there isn't a next time, but if we were faced with a situation like that again, I do remember hearing from like a lot of students and professors that we opened up too quickly. Like there was I think there should be more outreach to students and staff next time before opening up.
Thank you, candidate Papadenak. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
So I didn't experience the brunt of Hurricane Fiona being off campus. So, but I have gone around and talked to a bunch of students who were on res during this time, and obviously was a part of the student body. But from what I've seen, some of the great things that the universities and the U have done during that time was opening up Kevin's Corner. Obviously, was a very big thing. Obviously, a lot of people were a little bit unsure of their food resources, so having that be there, as well as the vouchers for anyone to take, definitely helped a lot of people that I know who were personally affected by it. Obviously, the most important thing for the students during a time like this are basic needs that need to be fulfilled, because a lot of these people had not had come from a very long ways away and weren't used to this kind of event. But one thing I would say is that obviously with what happened to MSB, it was very important that those students got taken care of with the devastation. But from what I've heard, there was a bit of neglect for some of the other students because of the devastation that was brought onto MSB. So I would say that one thing that could have been improved is establishing like that all students be taken care of as quickly as possible in such an event.
Thank you, candidate Ryan. Candidate Delebek, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of a common theme that I'm hearing in this answer is that a lot of people were not really prepared. We were didn't understand or like hadn't seen before a storm quite like this. And I think speaking as someone who's lived in Antigonish for quite a while now, I think even people who've lived in the Maritimes haven't seen a storm like this in quite a long time. So a lot of things was people were unprepared. But I think that the university and the Students' Union did a very good job at responding quickly. I know that there were staff that were out in the even before the storm had fully passed to try and help students out, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm like the university, the student union worked with the university to provide resources for students. I remember hearing that the student union was helping keep Kevin's Corner open for longer hours, so that was available for students. And also with the meal hall vouchers, that's definitely something that I'm sure a lot of people were grateful for. I'm lucky enough to have been able to have cooked food at home because we had a barbecue, but I'm sure it helped a lot of people who were looking for a nice hot meal. I think one of the things that could definitely have been improved was maybe some communication about the resources that were available to students. I remember a lot of the communication that I was receiving was from the university itself, or specifically from my parents' involvement, because we were unable to receive a lot of emails and such from our house. But yeah, a lot of the communication around resources available, like the food or showers and such on campus, that students were able to receive here.
Thank you, candidate Delebeck. Okay, let's move on. I have a second question for the Board of Directors candidates. How can the StFX Students Union improve their methods of communication to engage more with students? Candidate Delebeck, I will start with you first.
Yeah. So I do know that the union uses Instagram and TikTok as well. But I would say probably reaching out to different platforms. I'm not sure if the U has a Facebook page, but that could be another platform to reach students on, as well as emailing. I think the best bet would be ask the students, what do you use? What is the best way for you to receive your news about the union, our events, or things that you may need to know, like how to prepare for a hurricane, if we ever have, hopefully not, but so yeah, ask the students how we can better get news to them, and then diversify our platforms that we use to try and get as much outreach as possible.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
For my experience with being in the student body is the student union seems like very alien. Not a lot of people really understand what the student union does, and I feel like part of that is that the student union doesn't have a very established venue that students know about to get in contact with them. There's not really like a place that people know about, or an avenue for people to get in contact with the students union that's like very well established. So I would try to make like a concrete place for contact, because really the student union is strengthened when more people understand the issues that they're dealing with and understand how to contact them and how to voice their concerns.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Ryan. Candidate Papadenak, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow candidates as well. I think that use of Instagram for like our generation and the students right now is probably the most effective. I know that that's what I see the U post on the most anyways, or that's where I go to look for information about the U, is definitely Instagram first. I also know that there's like abilities to send out like mass texts, which like I know that like I like maybe will sometimes miss an email, like just because we get so many in a day. So I'm not sure if like email would be the most appropriate route, but I've had like last year I had like the students could sign up for like a mass text chain, and like so it would be like obviously like optional if students wanted to opt in, but that could be another kind of avenue that the U possibly looks into, just because I mean like kids are gonna look at their phones, so if you get a text you're gonna see it possibly more likely than an email. But yeah, definitely focusing on Instagram and maybe looking at that in the future as well.
Great. Thank you, Candidate Papadenak. Okay. I'm going to move back over to 2 more questions that we have for all of our candidates before we get into if our audience has any questions. So we will start with this question. From your lens, how can we advocate for a safe and inclusive campus environment? Candidate Papadenak, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think I would first like to acknowledge something that I think we're already doing well, which is Drive U. I haven't seen that at a Ontario school before, and I think I know a lot of students who use that instead of walking home late at night, which definitely takes some possible risk out of that. So I think that is a great avenue that StFX already has. I think that's something that we could maybe look at in future years is sexual assault awareness and education. I know that this year the varsity sports athletes had to have a mandatory presentation on sexual assault awareness and education, and I think that's great that the coaches agreed to that and thought that was important. But I think that's also something that could be extended to the rest of the student body, maybe make it available to anyone who wants to go, or if there's certain teachers who want to have it in their classes because it's relevant, or anything like that. I definitely think that sexual assault awareness and education should be a main topic on making campus more safe, and possibly looking at opening that up to the whole student body in future years. Be good.
Thank you, Candidate Papadenak. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
So when dealing with issues like this, it's really important to understand that there's a lot of people who are affected by this. And when taking steps to rectify or prevent future incidents from happening, I think it best to defer and try to get the voice of the people most affected by it, and talk to them about what issues they see the most. Some things I've heard is just letting the guidelines for the kind of activity going on be very clear. We need to start kind of holding students accountable for a lot of things, and really create situations to just make the general student body safe. Something I've heard be done on other universities is a system where if you're leaving a place, you have a direct line to the security, and you can tell them that you're going to be leaving this location and going to another one, and that if you don't get there by a certain amount of time, then to go look for you. I think maybe implementing something like that with security would be really helpful, especially reducing the amount of sexual assault that's present on X. And really, it's about listening to the voices of people who've been affected by these situations.
Okay. Thank you, Candidate Ryan. Candidate Delibek, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for safety and inclusion is definitely education. One of the things that I remember doing in recent years, at least my first year at StFX, was there was mandatory modules on Moodle. A lot of people I feel might approach those and just kind of click through, I gotta get it done anyways, may not fully pay attention, but I do think that they are useful. Kind of keep including those, maybe make them more of a activity during orientation week for students, include those modules, potentially also expand them to include safe space training with Amy McDonald. And I believe there's also similar trainings, I don't know the exact name for them, but offered by the Black Student Advisor Office and the Office of the International Student Advisor as well. And I believe for the Indigenous Student Advisor too. So those are definitely things that I would advocate for, is that education. And then accountability. If you see something, just say something. Hold people accountable. Hold yourself accountable as well. And just, be kind to each other. Everyone's just here trying to get through their university career. And we just want to have some fun as well. But, best way to do that is to do that safely.
Thank you, candidate Delebeck. Candidate Cruchet, you can go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the issues around safety are what we'd call in political science, or public policy and governance, should say, wicked problems. They're very difficult to fix, but that doesn't mean that you have to shy away from them. It just means you have to try a lot harder and spend a lot more time and put a lot more effort, which is what needs to happen. Regarding what you were saying about those modules you have to do, as many people know, they're mandatory, but they're, and the consequences, you have to complete them if you want to return the next year. But the thing is that for first year students at least, you have to complete them before your second year starts. So I know many people who have not done their modules yet, and they've had almost an entire year here at X. And I think that's absolutely a problem. I think that these things need to be completed before the semester starts, and because I think that they actually are incredibly helpful and informative. So that's probably what I would add to that.
Thank you, candidate Cruchet. Candidate Chang, you can go ahead.
Yep. So it is extremely important that we're committed to creating a safe learning environment that advocates access, diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. Because learning from each other, bridging our differences, and treating every student respectfully is vital. Here, I would like to add that it's really important that as students we are aware of our rights. That as an institution we learn from our past mistakes and build a plan or a prevention plan that recognizes threats and allow us to prevent crises. Finally, have everyone on the same page on their commitment to maintain a safe and discriminatory environment. Thanks.
Thank you, candidate Chang. We have one more question for all of our candidates. What will you do to make both the Students' Union and StFX campus more sustainable? Candidate Chang, I will have you start first, please.
Yeah, I have to thank Jack for this one. I've been talking with him lately about this topic, and he has taught me a lot. So yeah, in order to get a more sustainable campus, we must divest our endowment on the fossil fuels holdings we have, meaning that moving out from the oil and gas towards a more cleaner energy. Currently we have a power plant that is not as friendly with the environment, but it takes time to move towards cleaner energy. So this is more a long-term plan, if you will. But building this long-term plan that helps us do this transition is important, even if it takes time. So yeah. Also having sustainability programs to increase recycling, limit food waste, and limit wasteful electricity usage is also helpful to build a greener X.
Great, thank you, candidate Chang. Candidate Cruchet, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what candidate Chang was saying there. I think that we're taking really positive steps towards creating a more sustainable university. I believe numbers like 40% less emissions in the last number of years, which is very impressive. But as we know, this is a climate crisis, and sometimes slow and steady measures aren't fast enough. So I think we need to accelerate our efforts in relying more on green energy and relying less on oil. I know we've recently transitioned off of Bunker C, which is an incredibly carbon emitting fuel source, which is amazing, but we need to transition off of oil entirely. And alongside that, I think that there are a lot of things that we can change about our behavior and our habits to reduce our impact on the environment. Although I don't like to shift the blame onto individuals at all. But there's lots and lots of things we can do, even things like shorter showers, just these ideas of what can we advertise to the public as ways to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Great. Thank you, candidate Cruchet. Candidate DeLebeck, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think my first step would definitely be to reach out to Alpaca. For those of you who don't know, Alpaca is a local environment advocacy group and climate action group started by one of our, I believe started by, or at least led by one of our very own students, Angus Kennedy. And I would definitely work with Alpaca to see what we can do, or partner with them to maybe implement some regular cleanup programs around campus and around the town, and kind of bring awareness to the various things that students may litter on campus. And of course, not all the students, and it's not all due to the students, but we are the ones who live here and study here. Definitely something that everyone can kind of be mindful of, is just that we are using the appropriate bins. On top of that, I would say just try to reduce our general waste. I mean, I walk around this building and I see so many different posters of paper, and I like for things that are long past done, or things that are like the poster just went up and it's only going to be there for a day or so, when we have digital forms to communicate those as well. It feels wasteful to have so many posters that feel almost redundant because they just kind of get lost in the walls. Yeah.
Thank you, candidate DeLebeck. Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
When talking about sustainability, it's important to understand that there's sometimes you have to change really big aspects of your way of going about, and sometimes it's very small changes. What I would do is I would take a review the general budget of the union and see how much money we're putting into unsustainable aspects. We could definitely afford to do small things like my candidate said, like reduce the amount of posters we're putting up, or we could even do something like change the Drive U to be an electric vehicle. We may even we should also perhaps create programs that reward students for using sustainable resources, like maybe reducing prices for drinks if you put it in your cup, or something along those lines. But I think something we need to definitely do is make changes and be direct with students on why we're making those changes, and encourage them to join us in our path to curbing climate change wherever we can.
Thank you, candidate Ryan. Candidate Papadenak, you can go ahead.
Yeah, this is actually probably one of my most favorite questions to think about for this. I have future intentions of being an environmental lawyer, and I'm part of Alpaca as well. So I really enjoy talking about this. Candidate Chang already mentioned it, but StFX, kind of moving our investments into fossil fuels away from fossil fuels and towards green technology and green energy is definitely like a really big step that we hope to see X take in the future. There's already like universities across North America that are doing it, so that would be a really big thing to take. As far as like small changes go, like I don't know if everybody else goes to grab and go as much as I do, but they've recently switched over to wooden utensils instead of plastic. It's only been in like the last few weeks that I've noticed it, which is great. But as far as kind of continuing off of grab and go, like there's a lot of plastic containers that get used in the meal hall area, and there are other options to use besides that, which I think is something that could be looked at, because we go through so many of those containers a day. There's so many other compostable options that actually aren't that much more expensive or on par with the plastic options, which could significantly reduce the amount of plastic that's being used by students and the university. So I think that that's definitely something that could be looked at. But yeah, StFX, I don't know, last year when I was at Laurier, I did not see a compost bin anywhere on campus, so I think that we are moving forward in a good way, and there's other things that we can do as well.
Thank you, candidate Papadenak. I don't mean to jump around here, but I realized I did make a small mistake. I actually have 2 more questions to ask our senators candidates, just because Kat will be answering these 2 other questions for social media, so I figured I should probably ask you them as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead with the first one. How will you support the student population that suffers from learning disabilities? What can be done to assure a more inclusive learning environment?
Yeah, I think the first side of this is expanding this Trammell Center. I think Trammell Center is an incredible service that we have, and I think that we need to just invest more in it, and whether that be creating more room for appointments, more tutors, and the likes, things like that. As for creating this environment, I think that we need to work to normalize the use of all available services, whether that be having representatives who demonstrate that these are very normal things to use in classes and things like that, or just put more work into advertising. I think that these are all great ways to assist with that side of things.
Thank you. And our final question for you is that attendance in classes is at an all-time low, and more students are not attending their lectures. Why do you think this is, and what can be done to increase the attendance rates?
I think that it's probably just because students are learning that they can pass their classes without showing up to lectures a lot of the time. And my question would be, is there an issue with that? Why do we see this as such a massive problem? If it is taking mental stress off of students, should we be looking for a solution to seek full attendance in classes? I think that's a very valid question to ask, and maybe there is a very valid reason for that, but unless I can find one, I would say that I think that's totally fine.
Great. Thank you for answering those questions. I'm sorry for hopping around there a little bit. I just wanted to make sure I had those in. Now we will turn it over and see if our audience members have any questions that they would like to ask our candidates. Again, you can ask directly one person on the panel, or you can address the whole panel in a question if you would like. So the floor is yours if you have anything.
I did have a question. I'm very impressed to hear that it was almost entirely covered by the official list of questions, because I haven't really faced a lot of receptiveness in getting this question answered as a student from the Trammell Center. But I know that there is a large problem on campus and off campus. Just in general, students that have come and gone through the Trammell Center have experienced extreme barriers and even hostility when trying to access their as a protected class, what is their legal right to accommodations. And there's many students who I myself have witnessed come onto campus, have experiences through the Trammell Center that have led to them wholesale dropping out of this university. And I think that there seems to be a motion in place right now, the Accessibility Act, that we're trying to sort of put through. Like, they have a bit of an itemized list going on here on what they want to look at. But given the sort of turnover rate of the university, we're primarily undergraduate place, and this goes the same for PICAR and other groups that are sort of designed around bringing the university to task on a certain D&I, usually centric item, but just sort of good management principles. So as students, what do you think that we can do to keep the university accountable for this? what I've thought of in the past is having an organized student group specifically for things regarding accessibility that sort of mirrors X Pride. But what would your guys' thoughts be on what, and this could be anyone, whoever's interested in answering, but what would be your approach to keeping the school accountable to these deliverables?
If anyone would like to answer first, if anyone has raised hand first, yes?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, an absolutely excellent point as well. I think one of the biggest issues that we face, not even at the university, but in the larger community, is the stigmatization. I'm quite vocal about the fact that I am a student with the Tramble Center and I am neurodiverse. I know a lot of people who are afraid to speak up like that, and I totally understand that. I myself, if I didn't, I understand that, and I would feel like I feel the same. I think the only reason that I might be so vocal about it is because I want to break down that stigmatization, or that stigma. So I think the best thing we can do is advocacy and education. It is not on us to educate everyone individually. So I would probably try to work with the university to provide education, like the modules at the start of the year that we had for, like, at least for first year students, and try to provide those also for upper year, and have maybe those be reoccurring so that people can understand what, just kind of have a better education and understanding. Even providing things, say, for, I know that there's a certain font text that you can have that you'll see what it may be like to read as someone with dyslexia. Provide these various things so that people can better understand what it is like to be a person living with this kind of disability. And try to provide more education around the fact that it is in fact a disability. And just break down that stigma. Yeah.
Thank you, candidate Delabeck. Any other respondents? I'll take your silence as a no. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes.
Yeah,
Or, sorry, I feel like I should wait for candidate Cruchette to return. I'm not sure where he went. There?
Might have gone to the bathroom.
I think maybe we should just continue. Or do you see him out there?
it's coming back, yeah.
Oh, okay. 2 seconds. Sorry, we just have one more audience question we want to wait. We saw you were coming back. Okay, you can go ahead and ask your question now.
Concerning a lighter discussion, as an off-campus student that doesn't pay for meal hall, I feel like, I spend a lot of my time in campus, right? And I feel like sometimes the food offers, the food offer in campus can be quite limited. You know, if it's late, it's only Starbucks, the vending machines, or like the convenience store. And I like the convenience store, but I would like to see maybe some healthier options in there, you know? Like if you want to get food from the convenience store, it's not like these frozen breakfast sandwiches that are low-key addictive, but I don't think they're great for your health. I would like to see maybe some vegetable. That would be nice. More fruit. There was fruit sometimes, but I don't know. It didn't seem like super appetizing, just laying around. So what would be your ideas on improving the food options in campus for people that do not pay for meal hall or that are staying late at night and the Bloomfield Cafe is closed?
Would a candidate like to take that question first? Candidate Ryan, you can go ahead.
We can definitely look into the different resources that provide food. First of all, like you said, the convenience store, and we also do have like various other venues that do allow for food. I mean, I know there's the Bloomfield Cafe, but that generally closes pretty late. I would look into maybe providing certain an area similar to Kevin's Corner, but with the purpose of fulfilling more healthier options to students, because that is a very big concern. Is that there are a lot of unhealthy alternatives just around day to day, and there are a lot of students who are athletes who need to maintain a figure, and providing these healthy options is very valuable to our student population. So I would generally look into either giving those resources to places already established or providing a new area to allow for healthier options, maybe even for students who are vegetarian. Just resources generally.
Thank you, Candidate Ryan. Does anyone else want to share a response? Yep. Candidate Lebeck, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I have worked at the convenience store since it opened last November, and that is definitely something that we've discussed, is bringing in some healthier options. I think the biggest issue we faced is probably that it's harder to keep produce and such on the shelves, as they will tend to go bad faster. And so we were facing a lot of issue of waste, since we were trying to be less wasteful, and didn't want to keep throwing out food if it was not being sold, or we would donate it to Kevin's Corner. But I do think that it's definitely something to think about, is students who live off campus but may be here later, what are they available, like what options are available for them. I live off campus, and if I'm staying late, I often find myself buying a cup of craft dinner from the convenience store for my supper. But I definitely know that there are healthier options, or I wish that there were healthier options available late at night. I do believe that students are still able to purchase a meal plan if they live off campus, but I feel that there should be some other options. So I agree with Candidate Ryan there of having something similar to Kevin's Corner, where students, like a My Kitchen space where they can go and make themselves a little bit of food without having to go through meal hall to do that, will be pretty useful and great for students who live off campus but are here late.
Okay. Thank you, Candidate Lebeck. Anyone else want to share? Take that as a no. All right. And if we have no more audience questions, then that concludes the 2023 Boards and Senate election debate. Great job, everyone. So voting will be open on March 31st at 8 a.m. and that will continue on until April 2nd at 5 p.m. So make sure everybody gets out and votes.
That's this Friday?
Yeah, this week. Yeah,
That's
today's
this
the
Friday.
27th. This Friday.
Oh,
So stay tuned.
go vote.
But thank you all for coming, and thank you all for being here. And that's all I have to say.